Let's talk about schema evaluation and vacuum command in Databricks. What we have done earlier, we had created this test container in day 6 where we had delta as a delta format. This would be data directory. If I go in test container, I have other folders like files, Parquet folder, sample, where I have this countries1.csv file. Inside this test, I do have this temporary folder which I created using the command hands-on. But what about the other code which we had created in this file? So I am created a new notebook. Before this one, allow me to show this compute resources which I have connected here. In this compute resources cluster, I have created this as an unrestricted single user 15.4 LTS standard DS3 node type, and it will uncheck. It will have less DBU per hour because I have unchecked this photon acceleration. Now go back to this part. I'm just connecting this notebook to my storage. For this, I had just provided everything here is storage ID, storage container. If you do have idea, so you can go back here. This would be every step I will provide here in this sheet. How to connect this evaluation schema, how to connect this ADLS, how to connect this service credential. You can refer day 6 video. Okay, let's go here in our credential part where we had this series. So I'm going to run this cell so that we can connect most recent compute resources. Now meanwhile it's going to connect it, I'm going to connect the next part. What is the next part here? I'm going to create a resource, or just creating this part, just creating this one so that I can have this value in our. So I'm going to create this notebook. So I'm going to provide the source here. This would be test my container, and this would be storage command. So I'm going to copy this one and paste it here, delete, and this would be deleted here. Okay. Now you can see I just connected my source here with the relevant data storage, and here I'm going to provide this part. I'm going to copy this one. Can you see this is showing the sample CSV? What kind of CSV do we have? We can see here. Or if I want to check what other resources are there, for example, this is the delta resources. So you can go back here in the same resource, all these data logs are there, all these paths are there, all these files are there, everything is showing here. Now you can go here inside this delta, you can see everything is given here, delta log and everything properly. If I want to see what is the ingredient, what is the relevant part inside the delta log, I can go here in a same source, and inside the delta log, I can see what kind of other resources here there. Can you see this is first checksum CRC. This is the next file with JSON. We will see what is the relevant comment of this one. Next, I'm going to show this is the temporary part. This is the commit where we have different sizes of this one. So you can go back here that this is the properly showing here. If you want to dive right into the next transaction log, you can go back here inside this first JSON file. You can see this would be the first file. So I'm just copy this delta SDG123 correct name here, just paste it here so that we do not have any error. So can you see this is showing commit information, this is my user ID, this is username, operation is right. which I have written here. If I expand here, can you see this is overwrite, false position, notebook ID, customer ID is there. If you explore others files also, you will find the versions and other things are also here. Now, if you want to read the Delta Lake file, you can go back here and you can read the same file. I'm going to run this, create a heading for this so that we can read this Delta Lake file. So for this, I'm going to read this file. This one would be Delta, and inside this Delta, I'm going to read in my df variable. Now I want to create another schema. I want to print schema in this data frame. So can you see this is showing schema of my frame is string, integer value, date inserted, and everything is showing here. If you want to display the content, you can go back here inside the same file where I'm going to display this content here. Can you see what kind of content do we have? Do we have education level, we have line number, employed, unemployed, industry, gender, date inserted, dense ring, everything is showing here. Total 1525 rows, 24 rows are there. And what about this filtering part? If you want to filter this data set, you can go here and you can create this one. So I'm going to assign a new name df_delta and filter this row, these rows for education level equals to high level. If I want to count this row, that how many rows do I have, I can count using count function. Can you see this is showing 112 values. If I want to overwrite this one, so can I overwrite this part? So let's overwrite the same file in Delta folder. So I'm going to overwrite this file where we had df_delta, where we have education level is equal to high school. I'm going to overwrite this one. Can you see it's just taking few seconds because it's overwriting my Delta file. Now I want to read this file again, this JSON file inside my log here. If I go back and read this display folder inside this Delta and Delta log and just reading here, let's see what kind of ingredient do we have. Can you see now it is showing operation. Now we had the protocol, metadata, schema, and everything is showing here because now this is inside the Delta log is there. Okay, so now this is the next JSON. If I want to print next JSON, I am going to print the, just name it 1. Can you see now this is showing user operation, and this comment information is what we had written this data frame. We had add one thing here, what kind of line numbers are there. We had different remove, means this path is not, this data set is not there, they have removed this value. Let's read the overwritten file which we have created here. I'm going to create this heading so that we have crystal clear idea for this one. Now I'm going to read this overwritten file and let's write this overwritten file. Can you see this is showing inside this data file? Let's read this, display this content where we have display df_overwrite. Can you see now we have every rows with education is equal to high school. If you go down, you can see this is showing 112 rows only, where we had which we have just filter above. If you are filtering these rows and rewriting in other folder, you can see in your Azure portal as well. Now if you go to the next part, you can see this would be the overwritten file. Now let's create Delta tables. When I'm going to create this data table, I'll have to write schema first. So I'm going to write schema. I'm just writing schema. If it is not existing, so I'm going to write if not exist So it is going to create delta schema. So I'm going to create it. If you want to see what is the storage or what is the location of this data set, you can go back here in catalog. Inside this catalog, it's opening now. Go back here inside the Sachin resource group. Can you see there are two different things are there? Okay, so inside this one you have created everything. Okay, so we had created this one, so this would be the another file. Okay, so I'm going to create this one. This would be the delta, and inside this delta we do not have anything. If you click on this data option, you will find this would be empty. If you go for details, you won't find anything here. Okay, why? Because we have not created anything here inside this. No schema is there, nothing data is there. You can see this is not showing anything here. What is the location here? You can see this is the location, and this would be the details, owner, metastore ID, created ID, and schema ID. Everything is showing here. Now go back to your part 1. If you want to create something using your part, you can go here and create table. So I'm going to create table inside this schema with this delta file. So I'm going to create this delta file where I'm going to run this file with these column names: education level, line number, employed, unemployed, industry, gender, date inserted, dense rank. Now can you see it's showing okay, no error found. Go back here in catalog itself, refresh this catalog, click on this delta again. Now can you see delta file is here. Now inside this data you can see this is showing several things here, several properties are there. If you click over here on sample data, you can see we do not have any sample data, only columns are there. If you click on details, you will find this would be your storage location. This is our storage location. When it is created by, table ID, everything is showing here. Now go back to our notebook. Once we had created this file, we want to add records in this data table. So I'm going to create this data table and make it heading so that we can see what kind of records we are going to create. Okay, so let's create this code so that we will have another table. Now allow me to insert into this delta table. I'm just inserting these rows. Some values are there, and inside these rows we are going to create everything. Now can you see how many rows affected? 4. How many rows inserted? 4. Okay, so you can create rows inside your table. Let's query your table. So I'm going to make heading here, just paste it here, and just querying the table here. Now how to create query here? So just select each type using select asterisk from delta and delta file. This delta would be schema and delta file will be your file. You can see everything is showing here. How many rows are there? 4, because we had inserted 4 rows just now. Now you can see if you want to update the table inside data, you can go back here and let's create the heading for updating data in table. Now I can go back here and update delta file, set industry is equal to finance, and I'm going to set industry is equal to finance where education level is PhD. So this healthcare will be replaced by finance. So I'm going to run this code and will display this content will be having this one. So let's run this code again. So you will find the last row industry will be changed. Can you see last row which is having education level as PhD is now showing industry as finance, which was not there. So for each update we had different versions. For each update we had different values. Okay, so let's delete something in our given table. So I'm going to perform random operation so that we can see what kind of impact will be there in my delta table. So I'm going to delete operation. This would be delete operation, and let's delete from the same table which is having dense rank equals to 2. You can see this dense rank would be last column, second row would be deleted. Let's run this code so that I'll have to change from SQL and then allow me to run, because this is SQL command. I try to run in Python. So if you want to display this code, you can go back here in the next command and just run this code. This will be impacted here. Only 3 rows are showing. The second dense rank has been now removed. So this is how you can update your values and update your part here. Okay. Now, in the next part, I'm just gonna read the delta file into data frame. Here I had just created df, which is reading my park file from the park folder, which is given inside this test file for test directory. You can see inside this text I am having this park folder. Inside this park folder I am having park related data set. This is park format. This is not a delta table. If you want to see what is the ingredient of this delta, you can click on this delta folder. You can see delta log is here. This is the difference between Parquet file and delta file. You can see inside this delta we had different versions as well. How many commits we had committed, how many changes we had committed, everything is showing inside this delta. But if you go back into the park folder, you do not find any versioning there. So we will see what kind of operations we can perform here. So let's display content here. What kind of content do we have inside this df? So I just load this park file, and here in this park file I have already created these folders, these files here. Okay, so using these files I'm going to write this folder. So I'm going to write this delta override, because this is already existing in my directory, and I'm going to write delta spark, right? Save as delta spark. Now I'm going to write this, going to run this code and saving as a delta spark. You can come back here and list refresh here. Can you see this is showing delta spark file here? Now inside this delta file, if you scroll down, you will find certain different things. You can see this column is already there. This column is showing here, which we have written this one. This is regarding your column names. When you go up inside the sample data, this is also showing, because we had just imported from our park file to our delta spark file, which is available in catalog. If you go here inside the details, you will find this would be the storage location for your delta spark. Now go back here, and inside this you can see this was saved as table delta spark, because we had created using the spark table. Now if you want to see, if you want to read this table, you just display, just write display using the spark. I'm going to read this table, and you can see this is showing delta spark. This is reading my table from my catalog, not from ADLS Gen 2. This is the difference, and this is the very important thing, that you must have very crystal clear idea from which resource you are gonna read this data set, this data file here. If you are reading this file from somewhere else, then you must have that clear option. If you are reading this option from your catalog, so you must have provided that path. Okay, let's come to the schema evaluation part. First we must understand what is the schema enforcement or schema validation. Let's take a delta table which is maintained strictly, and we are ingesting data into this table on daily basis. In one injection in certain table, if new data is coming with new column which is not available, or which is more column, which is having more column than existing one, data lake using schema validation on writes. Now on a fine day during the data injection, some data comes with a new column which is not in the schema of our current table, which is being overwritten to the location where our data lake is present. So now generally if you are using data lake, I'm again mentioning it again to prevent any confusion, I mean data lake, not delta lake. The general data lake will allow the overwriting of this data and will lose any of our original schema. Like we have seen in drawback, we try to overwrite the location where we lost our data and it allowed the write return option. But coming to Delta Lake, we have a feature called schema enforcement of schema validation, where we will check for the schema for whatever the data it is going to return on it. For this, what we have to create, we will have to create a schema evaluation directory inside test container. So I'm going to move inside test container, add directory, name it schema evaluation, save it. Inside this schema evaluation, I'm going to upload 2 files. So let's browse for these 2 files. Now, in this directory, which is called schema evaluation, I just uploaded 2 things: schema less column and schema more columns. This more column will have more columns, for example other columns, or this less column will have very less column. Okay, so let's go back in this file because we tried to write this one which was not available. Okay, so let's go back into the next part where I'm going to read data with more columns. So let's create this heading. With this heading, I want to display what will happen if you try to read more columns file. So I'm going to create this schema. With this schema, we had max salary USD as extra column. So I'm going to create this schema so that we will have more columns. Let's try to create a data frame which is named as df more columns, and I'm going to read using Spark with this CSV format schema 1 which I created above, and with this header true, and this from this load file. I'm going to create from this load file. Okay, now with this load file, I'm going to print schema of this sheet. Let's confirm whether we had same schema. Yes, max salary USD is there. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 columns are there. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 columns are also here. Now if you want to try something which is relevant to the write operation, so with this df more columns, I'm going to write my delta mode append save as delta spark. If you go back here, inside this delta spark, if you go back overview, how many columns do we had? You have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, which means we had 1 column extra, which is max salary USD. I am trying to write or append this one using the write operation. Can you see this is showing a schema mismatch detected when writing the delta table. This table ID is this one. It's also showing what is the extra column or what is the reason it's not going to perform successfully. Now go back here. If you want to try with the next column, what will happen? So I'm going to write the same operation with the less column. So I'm creating schema first. With this schema, I have only 1 2 3 4 5 6, only 6 columns are there. And I'm going to create a data frame which is named as df underscore less columns, and this would be evaluation. This would be written in evaluation less columns. Okay, and now I'm going to write this file into our append delta spark table. So this is appending and save as this table and mod and delta schema. So can you see this would be delta format, and this would be no error here. Let's see what is the output here. I'm going to print this part. This would be showing output. No, this is not showing any output, rather we had successfully everything data here. Now if you can see, this is showing everything from the given part. Can you see? If you do not have anything, then it will throw an error, or it is showing this particular values. Okay, now let's try with another part. What is the another part of this one? This would be code, and here inside this I'm going to source data with different data types. Let's write this file with different data source, which is next drawback of our ADLS. So I'm going to try this one and paste it here with this true CSV file, and let's try to run with these files. From these files folder I'm going to write this one, and I'm going to write this one into our folder. So where we have delta append, inside this delta spark we want to see. If you want to display this content, you can see here using display command, display, I'm going to write df underscore difference. Can you see? This is showing everything here. So how many columns do we have? We have so many columns here. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 columns are there. If you try to append this one, let's see what will happen here. Can you see? This is showing different value, different error. Why error is there? Because if you go up, you can see this is showing different append value and different integer type is there. Okay, this is less column and different schema is there. Or if you go down, this is showing line number, and this is trying to append with different data type. Okay, so here we had different issues because we tried to append with line number and line number with different schema here. Okay, so this is the issue with our proper and source and destination part, where we had different schema here. Can you see? This is showing this different schema. If you will try to print this schema, this would be different schema, and this delta spark will be different schema here. Okay, now go to the next part where we try to evaluate schema evaluation. So I'm going to write schema evaluation. This would be the allow changes for extra column. First, let's resolve this issue. Whether we can write this one? Yes, we can write this operation with certain options. What will be the options here? I'm going to write this one with this merge column, write operation, append, but this time I'm going to merge schema is equal to true. This would be allowing us with more columns. Okay, so this will allow us to insert some values with the extra columns. Okay, so I'm going to run this code. Let's see what kind of content do we had. I'm going to copy this one. Let's see inside this delta spark, do we have anything? Yes, we had something in this format, but we do not display, we do not depict any error here. Okay, so let's allow different schema to evolve. If I would try to add different schema value, which is data type, which is different schema here, can you see this will be different schema to evolve. Okay, so how to overwrite? So inside this code, I'm going to write this one where we had override schema is equal to true, and delta is my schema, and delta spark is my table name. It just completed in few seconds, and I'm going to try data in my delta table. So let's create a heading here. I'm just writing data to a delta table, and let's create a folder here. I'm going to create a schema, not a folder. So this schema 1 would be there in our file. So I'm going to create this df again so that we will have proper values. I'm going to create this df files inside this df, and I'm going to use this version table. Let's see how we can create version based values. Okay, so here I'm going to use version in delta tables. Okay, so let's see what kind of versioning do we had. I'm going to display this right and save this above table in a delta schema and version table, and I'm going to name it version table. So I'm going to write this one and go back here inside this catalog explorer. You will have to refresh this file, and you will have to see this is showing version table. If you click on this one, you will find again overwriting file. Here we had proper type, data type. Here we had sample data type. Everything is showing here. If you go back here in the site details, you will find this is the storage location. Everything is as it is, which is newly created table for us. Let's see what kind of ingredient do we had. Can we display this content? Yes, using SQL command you can display this content. I'm going to run this version table which is having particular data set. Let's try to insert some records in this data. So I'm going to try to insert some record here. So this would be inserting tables here. So we had already created so many data frame, and now I'm going to create this one in our version table. So I'm going to insert in this version table. These 4 rows will be inserted, and this will introduce you to delta versioning part, which we will use throughout the project. So I'm going to run this code so that we will have this networking, female and male conversion will be there, and others will be there. Let's see what kind of version history. Can I show this history part? Yes, we can see what kind of history version is there. How many versions we had created here. Can you see? We had 0 and 1, 2 versions as of now we had created. This is timestamp where we had created, and this is the user ID who have created where we had username. First we written create table because this is the 0th version. So in this 0 version we just create table, and in the version number 1 we written some data, and we append something, and we just perform some notebook and cluster IDs there and some write data, and everything is there. You can see this is the next version we had created. Now let's try to update this record. And how to update this record? You can insert anything in this sheet. I'm going to update this record. How to update? Using the SQL command. I'm going to update this part. So using the same SQL command which we use to perform in Microsoft SQL, update delta dot version table, set education level is equal to PhD, where industry is equal to networking, which means everywhere we had this bachelor, master, high school, PhD, because everyone having networking as a column inside this record. So inside this record we are gonna change everything as PhD, from bachelor to PhD, master to PhD, high school to PhD. So let's update all these 4 rows using SQL command. So I'm going to run this code, and I'm going to update some other things also. For example, can you see this is updating 4 rows? I'm going to code up another thing. I'm going to code this one. This is gonna update industry is equal to networking. So this is going to display everything. Industry, education level, industry. You can see everywhere we have industry as a networking. It's showing education level as PhD, which has been updated now, and this will have next version. Let's see how many versions do we had now using previous command. We had version table using this describe id. We had next version now. Previously we had 01, but now we had one more version here. What's the update here? Can you see this operation was update, and this is going to networking, this is going to update notebook, everything is there. So this is gonna show next update for your table. What will happen if you try to use SQL command using versionAsOf query? So I'm going to create this one, and can you see this is showing using as of query. So first I'm going to display first option. For example, I want to select this one, these two columns using versionAsOf 1. If you want to display this values, industry is equal to networking, can you see this cannot be show? Oh sorry, this is wrong table name. This is not version. Let's create another code here. Inside this code I'm going to display this as a version, and let's run this code. Can you see this is showing previous version, where we do not have every rows education level as PhD. We had bachelor, master, high school, which was previous version. If I want to show version as 2, so I can replace this value as 2 as well. By seeing this 2 only, you can see this would be the updated version, which means you have not just deleted everything, but also having the updated, means previous file also. Can we display using time spent? Yes, we can display using timestamp as well. So I'm just updating this file using timestamp. So if I want to show this timestamp, yes, we had this timestamp. I'm going to copy this. I'll have to copy this list. Copy this cell timestamp, and let's allow me to paste here in this section. So this will allow us to print this value. If this is not showing, you can decrease this one. Sometimes what happened, it's going to delete this one. Okay, so I'm going to delete this part and keep this values as it is. Can you see it's also taking timestamp values? So after this time, this has been updated. So not only the version name, but using timestamp as of, you can display your content. You can use this time or date or particular value. Sometimes you want to restore command, you want to restore your older version to get previous version of your table. So what you'll do, you just go back here, and inside this table you want to see updated version only, like previous version. So how would you use this one? So you will use this command, restore table from the delta version. I'm going to restore version of 1. So which is having this not only all education level as PhD, but previous version says education level has bachelor, master, high school and everything. So now this is restoring my previous version. If you want to display this file, the same command you will have to print here. Just go back here, and can you see this is just restoring. Now go back here and let's run this code. You can see this is just remove number of files restored 2, number of remove file 1, number of remove file 1. Okay, so I have to display this content. You can see this is displaying updated one because this has restored version number 1 before updating education level. Every education level is having this one. Okay, now let's see what kind of vacuum command do we have. I'm going to code version where I'm going to display this vacuum command. Okay, So what is the benefit of this vacuum command? So I'm going to write this one. This would be vacuum command. Let's see how many questions are being asked in the vacuum command. So for this, I'm going to create a schema here. So for this schema, I'm going to create this one. This would be schema, and inside this schema, I'm going to create some file or view, I would say, using the same df. So I'm going to create this file, create this view. If it is existing, it will be existing. If it is not there, it will be creating. So I'm going to create a delta table using this schema. Let's create a delta table here. Inside this delta table, I'm going to create a vacuum table, VAC table only, using delta, and as select star from df view. Let's create. Do we have any value here? Can we display anything here? No, we do not have anything because we had not inserted anything. Now, can we show anything here inside this one? So I'm going to display anything. So I'm going to run this code from this vec table. Do we have anything? Yes, we had so many things inside this table because I'm going to create this table from deck table from df view. Okay, so let's see what is the df view. We had just created df view from this df. So if you want to display this df, you can go back here and just write display command using this df. Just inside this round parenthesis, just write df. You will find what is the current ingredient of your df. The same ingredient we had just copied into this table, which is named as vec table. How would you confirm this table? You can go back here in catalog and just, can you see this is not visible here? You just refresh, restore this one. Can you see now it's showing here? Now inside this vec table, you can see this is showing the sample data. This is showing your overview as well. Okay, this is showing overview. Scroll down, you will find schema here. You will find sample data as well. You will find details, and everything is as previous. Now scroll down. Inside this vec table, I'm going to perform multiple insertion here. Let's do first insertion. I'm going to code 1 and I'm going to perform first insertion. Okay, I'm going to perform next insertion also. Okay, so what kind of insertion we can do here? We can insert so many files here. I'm going to insert next value. So this would be the next insertion. Okay, let's try to insert some more rows here. I'm going to paste one more values here. How many rows do we have inserted? We had inserted 3 rows here. Okay, now let's try to perform some updates here. So I'm going to perform some update using the same value. So I'm going to perform this update. So where education level is PhD, where industry is equal to networking. If it is existing, if this row is existing, it is going to update 3 rows. Can you see? Let's perform some delete operation in our cell. So how to perform this delete operation? You know the code from SQL as well. I'm going to perform this code. Let's code this one, and I'm going to this one, and this is gonna delete something. Okay, so let's see what kind of history do we had from my versioning. So I'm going to display here and display all the history from my portion. Can you see? This is showing my history part. Okay, so if I If I will run this code, it will be showing everything which we had done here. Every version is showing. In the last version, we just delete it. In previous version, we just update it. We just written, like inserting something. We just create that table. So this is showing education level is PhD. This is showing industry is PhD. Also showing what kind of update or delete we had done here. So operation parameters was there. What were the necessary condition and like constraint were there while performing that operation. So this is also giving a metadata out of it, right? Can we run any dry run? I'll explain what is the dry run here. So I'm going to, let's run this code with a dry run. So there is a code called dry run in Databricks. So this is gonna run in dry run. So I'm going to perform this thing, and it's not going to show anything. Why? Because when you go down here, it is showing no schema. Schema evaluation is what? So schema evaluation is a feature that allows the user to usually change the table's current schema to accommodate the data changing over time. Most commonly, it is used for performing an append or override operation to automatically adopt the schema to include one or more column. So we had to make it true. What is the vacuum command? If you are going to very high storage cost, your organization wishes to delete all data like 30 days old data, you can make use of vacuum command. Let's see how we can implement this. Now, in order to know how many files will be deleted, you can use of dry run features in this values. Let's see, you can implement this. Now I'm going to use some feature called dry run in the text file we had used. It is not actually going to delete any kind of data. It is just going to show us how many files will be deleted. So it will be ideally give a list of first 1000 files that will be deleted, and it will not actually delete. So it will just show that file will be deleted. Now by default, retention period of this vacuum is 7 days. So any data that is having the age of more than 7 days, that will be deleted by default using vacuum command. This is meaning of vacuum command. So we just created our table and we just inserted few rows that we haven't have any data which is older than 7 days. This is the reason it's not showing anything in our hands-on notebook. Now if I just try to run this particular command, this is going to show nothing, as now we can see it is not returning any result because we are not having any data which is post 7 days old, which is retention period of this particular vacuum command in Databricks. Can you see it's not showing anything, no data return. Okay, if you want to display with more than 5 hours, you can make it retention period is 5 hours only. So it's showing illegal argument exception because the low retention is very high. So you can go back here and you can make it false because you want to make it disabled and you want to make it very low retention period. So I'm going to retention duration check enable false. This will allow us to perform some very low level retention level. So I'm going to make it delete and make it retain 5 hours only. So this is going to retain 5 hours. Okay. If you want to delete everything here, you can see now for testing purpose, if you want to delete the data which is less than 7 period of time, then default duration is there. You can make use of return command, just make it return duration as true, which we have done here. Can you see now we had retention table as 0. Now if I want to show this one and I'm going to make it 0, like delete all the data set, you can see this is showing everything here. So this is showing deleted everything, and later on we will see how many version we had created while deleting, updating, writing or creating vacuum. So I'm just creating that, I'm just showing that instances, how many version we had created. We had 9 versions or 10 versions because they are starting with zeros. Now using this last version, we had vacuum end, vacuum start, vacuum end and vacuum start, where we had created completed and we had checked this one, we had performed this write operation, we had performed this notebook, and everything is showing here. Whatever we have done in this sheet, we had just showing here. If you want to describe history, you can see here. Okay, so let's see what kind of data set do we had. Okay, so here I'm going to delta vec table. So I'm going to write this SQL and let's select star from this table. Okay, so let's see how many rows do we have. Can you see this is showing so many rows do we have. Okay, so many values we are going to convert here. Let's convert to delta file. I'm going to convert everything here. So I'm going to write this CSV file into files.csv, and I'm going to converting this file into Parquet file. Only Parquet file is there. Can you see? This would be only Parquet file. So now I'm going to rename. This is the next override where we had written this file. Okay, so I'm going to convert this one line number to L number because this is not showing anything as previous. So this would be existing and this would be rename part. Let's overwrite this Parquet with the overwritten file. You can go back here and you can write this file as overwrite. Now the source is only Parquet. So from this only Parquet, I'm going to rewrite this one. Let's run this code because I'm going to run this code. Let's read overwritten Parquet file. So I'm going to read this Parquet file from the given source. You can see this would be the Parquet file. Okay, so let's run this file. Have we written this one? So yes, you can go back here and you can check your test folder also. Inside this test file, we will have this only Parquet file, and inside this Parquet file we had so many things here, but we do not have any delta folders here. Okay, so I'm going to convert into delta folders. So go back here in the next file. I'm going to convert into delta format. So now I'm going to write this one to delta file, and let's see what's the name of this storage. This is delta STG. I'm going to copy this one and paste it here, and let's convert into only Parquet file. Okay, you can check this would be okay. Let's make sure we had correct name here. This is underscore. Okay, so can you see this is converting my file into Parquet file. Go back here and just check my containers. Inside this container, test inside my Parquet field. Now it is having delta log, which means now it is converted to delta format. Previously it was in Parquet file. Let's describe history. What is the history of this folder? You can see if I want to describe history of this delta part, you can see this will be showing everything here. Can you see this is showing this? Okay, so this is showing wrong delta storage. Allow me to make sure. I'm going to convert into proper delta storage. Can you see this is showing proper timestamp, proper user ID, proper version. If you want to increase this version name, you can go back here inside the given folder. Okay, let's recap what we have done in this video series. In the first part, we just created delta table using SQL command. We just created default language, converted delta file, and inside this delta location, we just created everything. In the next part, we just created schema evaluation inside the containers. We just uploaded more level of columns and less level of columns because we try to update and we try to delete something. And once we are trying to injection, we cannot see that what kind of delta lake is there. And there is a big difference between delta lake and data lake and delta format. So we had extra column with maximum salary USD. We try to update it and we just provide the schema evaluation. Schema evaluation is a feature that allows the users to easily change current table schema to accommodate the data changing over time. So this is how we can perform the audit data changes and time travel for the certain things. Then we just performing the vacuum command for 30 days or 7 days older times. So we just checked, we just finally converted to delta lake, how to convert into delta series. So thank you so much for joining this call. We will see more concept in the next video. Thank you.